Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi. And what happened? Oh, let me do this again. Okay, well, uh-oh, hold on. Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. I got a question for each and every one of you. Are you living your soul purpose? Do you know what that is? Do you have any idea what your soul purpose is and why you're here? And we talk about it in the opening. Why am I here? What am I here to do? Now, is it what your body's here to do? Or is it what your soul's here to do and is using your body as like a car? It's the part of you that is physical and allows you to do your soul to do certain things. And we have somebody here who's going to kind of explain all of this for us, because there are lots of people that are saying, oh, no, you're just your body. And there are some people that say, oh, no, you're an energetic being, and you use your body. And I want to get her perspective, because she's a spiritual life coach, a psychic medium, an intuitive counselor, an Akashic Records reader, which we're going to talk about, soul realignment practitioner, crystal energy healer, and an angel guide. She does all of those things. She's been working at this for, she's a young lady, so she can't be working at it for that long, but she's very gifted at what she does. Her name is Alexa Darrin, and if you want to follow along, go to alexadarrin.com. and you can learn all about her and the work that she does. Alexa, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. So happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
You are so well. I got to tell you, when we chat, I learned so much about how it all works, and it is something that a lot of people are struggling with. They don't really understand how the soul interacts with the body, and what is driving the process. Is it your eternal soul, or is it your body that is looking for instant gratification? I don't know. So explain to us, Alexa, when we're talking about your soul, what are we really talking about?
Man, what a big question. And I will caveat and say that everything I share today, right, is my truth, because we all have our own experiences and our own way of understanding the world. And so everything I share today is going to be what I have learned through working with spirit, being in the Akashic Records, and kind of the way that I've interpreted it through my lens. And I think the soul, there's a lot of kind of debate around what that means. And yeah, who is driving the car? And I loved your metaphor about, is the body just a vehicle? Because it is my belief that it is, right? This is our physical bodies are the vessel that our soul has chosen to experience its divinity, its purpose, and to learn lessons in this incarnation. And so it all works together. And so it's never just your soul running the show. There's also your human emotions and drives and the ego and all of that. And so understanding your soul and where your soul wants to take you, you also have to understand what part of that is part of the human experience as well. And your soul is the eternal part of you, the part of you that is one piece of source. And so some people call that God or the universe, divine source energy, the goddess. And so your soul is a piece of that that's been broken off so that source can experience itself in different ways. And so that's what our soul is, I guess, in the most kind of big picture way.
The interesting thing about that is that the soul is part of us, but as a physical human being, if we make certain choices, we can override the soul. and what our intent is. Does that make sense? Is that true at all?
Yeah, there's always free will.
Ah, there's, there's that free will thing again.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's kind of the big deal about coming down to earth, is that we always have free will. There's no divine guide or divine entity that's here to tell you what to do or what you should do. You always get to choose, and there are no shoulds or have tos.
But at the same time, sometimes the soul will take the back seat to what the desires of the physical body is, or mental illness, or things like that. Because when people talk about somebody that is doing something bad, and a lot of times that's not your soul responding to that or be doing that. That is your physical being that is overriding the imprint of your soul. Would I be correct in that?
Yeah, so that is a really complicated question.
I figured
And
it might be, but that's why I asked you.
yeah. So what is interesting is, so when we are planning our incarnation, and this is what I have learned in the Akashic Records and is a foundation of the work that I do for the soul realignment work, is that so we plan our incarnation and we make contracts with a lot of other souls to play different roles in their experience, for them to play roles in ours. And sometimes we will agree to be the villain in someone else's story because their soul wants to experience something for their soul's growth. And so because we love them so much, we agree to do some maybe not so nice things, because we have an agreement that that is going to be what that soul needs at that point in their life to prepare them for something else, because we want to experience lots of different ways of being human. So that's where it gets really tricky to place judgment on something, or to say that's bad or that's not your soul, or to blame other people for doing things to us, because our soul might have signed up for it. And this was something that was really difficult for me to accept and wrap my head around when I first got into this work, because humans can do some pretty cruel things to each other. So the idea that we asked for it, or that we signed, that was an agreement that we made, it's really tough to be like, wow, we would plan for that. But I think that one thing that I have learned, and I think is a big part of my view of spirituality, is that the human mind, we cannot understand the scope of, I think, all of this, right? Like, of what our soul knows, what our higher self knows, what source knows. And there's a lot more, I think, to our incarnation and what's going on than we can comprehend. And so I think we have to trust that, there's just to just kind of accept what we can understand. And that, yeah, there's more to it than I think meets the eye.
Interestingly enough, there's a gentleman by the name of Neil Donald Walsh. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
He wrote Conversations with God and a bunch of other books. And he says the exact same thing. As a matter of fact, he's got a children's book that is A Little Soul in the Sun, I think is what it's called. And he talks exactly about that.
Oh,
about
wow.
the decision that a soul makes. I want to learn about forgiveness. And so
Yes.
he's on the other side, and he's talking with his soul family, which, by the way, we all have a soul family on the other side as well as the one over here. And he says, I want to learn about forgiveness. And everybody said, but how are you going to learn about forgiveness? Everybody loves you. Nobody's going to want to hurt you. He said, but I really want to learn about forgiveness. And so one soul stepped up and said, because I really love you, I will do this thing for you. And when we come back here, you will know that it was all done because you requested it. Exactly. and stuff. And because that's not within our nature to do negative or to do harmful or hateful things to somebody. So I recommend everybody read Neil Donald Walsh. He's got a bunch of books, like 40 books and stuff. But you know what Alexa, you know what I find that is so fascinating is that I talk to a lot of different people, and everybody has virtually people like you that have studied the Akashic Records, and you've been a medium, and you're a spiritual life coach, and you've done a lot of the work, you all say the same things. I mean, it really isn't like you're making this up and you're finding a different way of expressing it. You're all saying really roughly the same things, because so to me, that's the truth, because you haven't met these other people, but they're saying the same things you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful.
And so it's really important for everyone to realize that if you want to do the work, and a couple things, Alexa's actually absolutely right. There is free will. You can decide that you want to live the life to however you choose to live it, and that's perfectly okay. But if you decide that you want more, you want to learn more about who you really are, why you're really here. I'll give you an example, Alexa. 40 years ago, there was a guy that came into my life and we became best friends. He took me to, we decided that we were going to go to college. And then he backed out at the last minute. I haven't seen him in 40 years. But because we did that, I took drama and starred in several plays and was working at the radio station. And it really set me up for what I'm doing now. And then 20 years ago, there was another gentleman who became my best friend again. Apparently, I've had a lot of best friends. And he said, why don't we do a television show to learn about all the things we're learning? Because we had learning about meditation and mindfulness and all that kind of stuff. Well, we started doing that. He didn't like doing it. I loved it. He left. I haven't talked to him in 20 years. I know now, looking back on it now, that these men came into my life, that I've known them forever. They came into my life to guide me in a way that was completely different than was in my mind. And going to school was not in my mind. Doing a radio show was not even close. And they came and they did that. And I think if we all look back, I think there are people that do that for us all the time, don't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I've had so many people like that in my own life. And so I think when I started to learn about soul contracts and reincarnation, and I came to this later in life, and it gave me so much like great perspective on the friendships that I had that were temporary but amazing, or the different mentors, just magical people that kind of came into my life. We kind of lived out that relationship, and I changed for the better, and then we kind of went our own separate ways. And looking back, it's like, wow, those were people that I had these amazing soul contracts with. And it's really, really cool to think about. And I think that's one of the reasons too. I love working in the Akashic Records and help connecting people with their own soul blueprints, because it gives you this, I think, kind of ascended perspective, big picture view of your own life when you know what your life lessons are, right? Whether it's forgiveness, and then you can begin to understand the things that have happened in your life that have been a part of that lesson. And instead of it happening to you, it's like, okay, these are the things that I think I called in so that I could learn this lesson. And I think you can be more at peace with some of those challenges too, and see how they made you a better person.
And it's important to view it that way. Like, a lot of people go, oh crap, let me give you an example. Oh crap, I broke my arm, and that
Right.
really sucks, and that's terrible, and all that kind of stuff. I look at it as a blessing, because there were some things that I needed to work on and change in my life, and I'm a little hard-headed, and and they decided they'd put a dent in the car.
Yes.
Because I needed to have a dent in the car, and to initiate the changes in my life that I needed to effectuate. And so I look at these things, and talking to someone like you, if we were having a private session and I were to bring this up and to explain how it's changed me, that would be something that you would we could look at the Akashic Records, and you could see some of the things that I needed to do to really achieve who I really am, which is what we're all here to do, isn't it?
Yeah, purpose, you mentioned in the beginning, our purpose is just to be the fullest expression of ourselves. to experience our divinity as a soul. And so it's not just one thing. We didn't come here with a checklist necessarily of I need to do this specific one thing or I failed the test. It's just to learn the lessons, to grow, and to be our fullest expression. Now that's easier said than done, because we can get disconnected from who we are, from past life trauma, karmic complexes, from childhood wounds and challenges, things that have happened to us, societal conditioning, who we think that we should be, what's going to make our parents happy. So that's why a lot of the work that I do with clients to connect them with their purpose is clearing out the clutter. It's removing things from their energy field and from their belief system so that they can get back to the purity of who they are on the soul level and step into that full expression.
By the way, we are talking with Alexa Darrin. Go to her website, alexadarrin.com, and you can work with her. I highly, highly recommend that you do. If you have, and we're going to talk about this. I need to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'm going to talk about my journey a little bit when my inner knowing, my guide, my guides, my soul started to say to me things like, why are you really here? This ain't it. This isn't really why you're here. Why don't you go find out why you're really here? And if you're having that conversation with yourself, then you need to talk to Alexa, because she can help you understand more about why you're here and what you're here to do and what contracts you signed before you even got here. And we need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Alexa. And by the way, if you want to be a real estate dealer or real estate agent or realtor, and you're not having much success because you aren't having any success because you don't know how to do it, they just got you your license and then pat you on the fanny and said, go out and do this, and you don't know how, well, this guy knows how. Listen to this.
You became a real estate agent for freedom, success, and real momentum. So why are you still stuck waiting for closings to save you? I'm Ophir Adar, founder of Real Momentum, and I help agents like you become seven-figure earners. My first client that I coached, brand new agent, made $250,000 back in 2006. What's the secret? You feed your white wolf. That's the part of you that's bold and unstoppable and a closer and able to build rapport quickly. So click Get Listings at Real Momentum and let's unleash your real estate potential.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And I'm so glad, I'm so happy that she's here. Alexa Darrin is with us, and she does all these really cool things, including she's a psychic medium. I may ask you to find my dad before the end of the show, but we'll save that for later. But I wanted to touch bases with you because there was a point in time, and I did exactly what you said. I grew up and I was supposed to go get a job, and then I was supposed to get married, and then I was supposed to have a couple of kids and have a career. And so I did all that, and I was in the restaurant business and a general manager, and then a sales manager and a national sales manager and all that kind of stuff. But when I was 42, I said to myself, I'm not really happy doing all this. Why am I really here? I've got to have more of an impact than this. I just felt deeply that I needed to do something, but I had no earthly idea what it was. And do you find that there are a lot of people that at one point in their life, some earlier, some later, that happens to almost everybody?
I think it's happening to more and more people. I think the energy on the planet is shifting, and I think as just the world is shifting, where now we have that luxury of being able to ask ourselves these more existential questions.
Yeah.
Right. And we have more choice in the way that we live our life. I think there's a lot of change that's happening, and I think a lot of people are waking up and wondering, is there more to life than what used to be or what I thought that there was, and who am I really?
Well, and you're absolutely right, because there was a time when we spent all of our time trying to make sure that we ate.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're warm, and we had enough firewood and that our family was in the cave and all that. But we're not there anymore. Now you can just go to the grocery store and you can pick up stuff, and it's getting a job that pays you well enough to live is not all that hard. But at the same time, that's not why we are really here. What is our mission in life? And it's not I don't think it's about the position in life or the car that you own. It's about how you interact with other people and how you're being kind to others and being helpful to help humanity grow. Is that kind of why we're here?
It's a part of it for sure. Yeah, I think that, and this might be a little controversial, but I think in spirituality there's a lot of focus on service, and your purpose is to serve, and how can you help others? Now that is a part of it, but that is not why you are here. And I think service for service sake is not your purpose. It is not our purpose to give everything to other people, to always just be like, how can I help others? That is one part, but really our purpose here is to learn the lessons that our soul has set out to do, to fulfill our soul contracts, and to experience our divinity in soul form, because we are a piece of source, and source is everything, and source can't experience itself unless there's a piece of it, right? So we are here to then experience the world. So it's more about the experience than just always being in service mode, if that makes sense. And I don't think a lot of people talk about it in that way.
No, they really don't. Well, let me give you an example of one of the reasons why we're here, I think, and you tell me if you think I need medication. There are three souls that are standing there talking on the other side, and they're talking about their experiences on Earth. And two say, what was your favorite holiday? And they said, oh, no question, it was Thanksgiving. And the third soul said, well, why Thanksgiving? And he said, oh, my favorite part was pumpkin pie. I love pumpkin pie. And the other said, oh, me too. And the third soul had never experienced it. So they said, so what is pumpkin pie? And they tried to describe it for him. They couldn't describe the taste, the feel, the whipped cream, the crust, the whole thing. It made no sense to him because he never experienced it. So as part of what his soul contract to come back here was, he wanted to be placed in a place that did Thanksgiving, so that he could enjoy pumpkin pie and find out what these guys are talking about. So he does that, and then he goes back, and they're standing there talking again, and he said, you're right. I had no idea how cool that was. I really enjoyed that pumpkin pie. Thank you for sharing that with me. Can that be part of the conversations we have with our soul family on the other side?
Man, I don't see why not. And the thing is that, and that could, that would obviously wouldn't be the only reason to incarnate, right? It's for pumpkin pie, but that could certainly be a part of it. And I see, especially with parallel souls, which I've had a few like long-term clients who are parallel souls, which means that they're incarnated from like a parallel universe, and they're here to incarnate on Earth to experience, like one of my clients, it was like the physicality of Earth. So her reason for incarnating here wasn't to be of service to others. It was to experience what it was like to be in a physical body, to experience the physicality of the Earth. She had a lot of physical health problems or different injuries as a part of that experience as well. And yeah, she's helping people and she's a kind-hearted person, but she didn't come down here to learn how to help others. She was here to experience that. So that's just one example of sometimes you're here to experience, or the emotions, or what it's like to be in a tribe. And some souls, they're more coming down to contribute to innovations and inventions. And yes, that's helping humanity, but that's not like service as we think of like, okay, how can I help other people? They are driven by this desire to innovate in technology or all these fields. So there's all these different things that we come down with, like a drive where our soul is wanting to do, that allow us to experience ourselves and our divinity, that have the secondary effect of helping other people. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And wouldn't it be cool if you and I could sit here and go, okay, I want to be an actress and I want to be a movie star. and I want to be a nice person and give back, and then we could make that happen. Well, that's what they're doing on the other side. Whatever it is that you decide that it is that you want to do, whatever your passion is, and it can change, and it changes all the time because it depends on. Well, I did this and I learned about this. I'm not so good at jealousy. I probably need to learn a little bit more about jealousy and how to handle it appropriately.
Yeah.
And so somebody will say, well, I'll help you with that. And so you learn more about jealousy and all that kind of stuff. So I love the whole concept. And so many people have said this. I can't believe that you've never read Neil Donald Walsh, because some of the things that you say come directly out of his book and in the Conversation with God.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, I was, I came to spirituality later in life. I think I was 38.
But that's right about the time.
Yeah, I think I was about to turn 38. No, I was about to turn 39, because then I got pregnant soon after I had my daughter, right before I turned 40. I just turned 43. So this is, I didn't spend decades diving into these books about learning all this. It was a very baptism by fire, right? But I've mostly had my own personal experience in working with spirit and working with the Akashic Records. And I think that, not that I'm knocking reading books. I think reading stuff is really, really great to get experience, but also just my path has been one of sort of diving in and experiencing it for myself. And I think it's cool that there's all these similar stories that are coming out of all these people.
It's remarkable to me, but at the same time, and we're going to take our halftime break in just a minute, but help us understand the process that you went through, because you didn't depend upon other people, or did you have a mentor who helped you learn some of the processes to become who you are today, or did you just kind of make it happen?
No, I definitely had mentors. And so for mediumship, I had a mentor that I worked with for about 9 months. I had a mentor for the Akashic Records. I didn't work with her kind of directly. It was not as close proximity, but I learned how to access them from someone else. I didn't just figure it out. And then also with the angels, I studied with Kyle Gray and Radley Valentine.
Very cool
about that. So I had a mix. I definitely knew, and my guides have sort of told me, you need a mentor, find someone who can show you the way, who can help you to kind of activate and learn about your gifts, and to help you to step into that fully. So yeah, I think it's really, really important to find a mentor or a guide when you're stepping into something new. I have been a very self-taught person my whole life. And I had thought I had this this part of my identity where I was yeah, I'm the kind of person who can just figure things out. And I've done a lot of things without formal training or any sort of, business doing that. And I would get hired. Right. And then when I was reflecting upon that, when I was working with these mentors in the spiritual realm, I did realize, I was I did have mentors. They weren't formal mentors that I was paying or hiring, but I had people that stepped into my life, as we were talking about earlier, these magical people who saw the potential in me, who believed in me, and who helped to guide me towards what I wanted to do. And I think that's always really powerful and helpful.
Well, and I'll tell you one more thing about that. That was a gift that you brought with you, being able to figure stuff out and to do, and you could figure anything out. You brought that with you from the other side, because that was going to be necessary for you to use that, so that you did not have to rely upon some guru who was going to tell you, oh, Alexa, this is how it is, and this is what you opened your heart and you figured it out, and you asked your guides on the other side, and they said, oh, good, she finally asked. Now let's get it to work.
Yeah.
Does that make any kind of sense?
Yeah.
Because that's what happened to me is that I said, okay, why am I here? What am I here to do? And I said, you guys, I need to know, what am I here to do? And that's that. I activated their ability at that moment to say, oh, finally, he's 42, he's almost dead, and now he's going to start talking about this stuff. And so now we can help. And now we can create a blueprint of what he's going to learn and where he's going to go from here to there to one radio station to the other to driving a bus for 12 years. Oh, he needs to learn about that because he needs to learn compassion and and all of those things. So it's amazing when you open your heart, open your mind, and say yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is really cool. By the way, we're talking with Alexa Darrin. Go to her website, which is alexadarrin.com. Now, we've mentioned it several times, and we have yet to explain the Akashic Record. So when we come back from this little break, we're going to delve deeply into what are the Akashic Records and how they can be accessed so that you can learn about why you're here, which is really, really an important step. I would just hate to, on my last day on the planet, say to myself, I really never knew why I was here, because then you've wasted your time, at least in my opinion. So we need to take this break, and we'll be right back with Alexa Darrin. Don't you dare go away. We're going to talk about the Akashic Records right now.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And Alexa Darrin is here. She's here. She's right over there. That's her. She's an extraordinary human being, and as we all are, by the way, but she has special gifts, and she can help you figure out what your special gifts are by working with her. And because she's taken the time, which a lot of us haven't, to figure out some of these things. One of them, which is kind of I think it's a really big deal, is the Akashic Records. Would you explain what those are and why they're so important?
Yeah, so the Akashic Records are an energetic library of everything that has ever happened and sort of every decision, every choice that your soul has ever made. And also who you are on, like your soul's blueprint. So when your soul was created, what made you who you are as a soul. And it also shows what your current life lessons are, your soul gifts, all of those things are in your soul's blueprint. That's also, because it contains all the choices that your soul has made and everything that's happened to you. You can also find out what karmic complexes and patterns and blocks and restrictions and things like that are going on at the soul level that you've picked up and in past lives, so that we can clear those out. And you can also find, this is something that not a lot of people know about, your manifesting blueprint. So how your soul is uniquely designed to manifest, because manifesting is the way that we experience our reality, the way we experience our divinity, and is a big part of why we're here.
That's amazing. So you can learn how your soul naturally manifests things like success, money, relationships, all of those things that they're in life. So are the Akashic Records, now I've been studying a lot of NDEs lately, and which are near-death experiences, and a lot of them have what's called a life review. Is that when they're digging into on the other side. They're digging into your Akashic records for that particular piece.
Well, and that's an interesting question. I'm not sure if they're digging into the Akashic records, but when you cross over, you do go into a life review. And so you're with the help of life review counselors, which we have these jobs in between lifetimes. We're not just floating among the stars. And so that's also something that I find out in the Akashic records on the soul blueprint level, like what your jobs are in between lifetimes. So life review counselors specialize in facilitating that life review. So you're looking back at your life, understanding the choices that you've made and how you were learning your lessons, how you were showing up, and you get to experience your lifetime through the eyes and the feelings of the other people that you affected. So if you've hurt someone during life review, you're going to get to experience what it was like to be hurt in that way. And so that's what you go through right after you cross. And then that life review can then inform your plan for your next incarnation.
That is so interesting. By the way, you can find out more about this, Journey of Souls. Have you read that book?
No.
Oh my God. Jeez. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is just too strange, because Journey of Souls was written by a guy by the name of Dr. Michael Newton, and he goes into deep hypnosis with people. In the session takes as long as 5 or 6 hours, and he takes people between lives. You have just described in a paragraph or two exactly what he takes the whole book to write about.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're kidding me. You didn't know that?
No.
Of course you did, dude. It is just remarkable that because and that's what we do as we go over and by the way, if you are somebody that occasionally, maybe you're a narcissist or somebody that you can be mean to people at times, I want you to remember this: when you're having your life review and when your life is over, you get to find out exactly what they're feeling when you're being mean to them, because you become them and they become you. So if you don't want to have that experience, be kind to everybody. At least that's what I would guess. At least, but that's kind of true, and that's an important piece of what we do over there.
Yeah.
And by the way, we get to pick our parents, we get to pick our bodies, we get to, I don't know why I picked this one, but we get to pick that stuff, and it really is fun. So what do your Akashic records tell you about you?
Great question. So when I dove into my Akashic record, I was actually pretty surprised, because I was expecting, this was really early on in my spiritual journey, and I was at the time a professional creative, and I had been so for a decade, a writer, a director, creative director for an advertising agency. So I was expecting to see all the stuff about me being a creative and an artist on the soul level. And that was in there. But so I found out that I was Pleiadian, or that I am Pleiadian. So that's a part of what I find out in the Akashic records. If you're a star seed, if your soul originated from another star system, or if you are an Earth soul. And about 75% of the souls on the planet are Earth souls. Their first incarnation was on Earth, and they continue to incarnate here. And about 25% are from other star systems. So I found that out. And I found out, so there's your soul's archetypes, kind of your soul level personality traits. And so I look for your top 5 archetypes that really allow you to understand your gifts, your strengths, and are a really big indication of your purpose. So my top 5 archetypes, the first one was intuitive. And I was shocked by that, because I hadn't really fully opened up my gifts yet. And I wasn't sure if I was just crazy for wanting to develop my psychic gifts. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. All right, cool. I got intuitive. Second one was counselor. So that's what makes me a great coach and a great intuitive counselor, the things that I do. The third one was artist. So artist is not like a visual artist. It's someone who creates, whether you're a writer, director, visual artist, all of that. So that was in there on the third one. And the fourth one was leader, which was not surprising, because I have always been a natural leader since I was bossing my siblings around. I'm like 5 years old. That made a lot of sense. And then the fifth one is called harmonizer. So a harmonizer is somebody who is able to see both sides of the story, to bring people together, to understand each other. Also, who likes to have things very in balance and calm, and everyone like happy and okay in harmony.
Well, you have a child, you know how hard that is.
Yeah, so that was obviously, I have a 3-year-old, and that's where, the chaos of just one child for me is enough. Like, I couldn't do more than one. That's enough. So that was really cool to see how those fit in together. And I got to see my life lessons. I learned that my primary life lesson is hope, and my secondary life lesson is perseverance. And so when your life lesson, you can really think about your life lesson as like a theme that you've chosen, and you learn it over multiple lifetimes, because it takes multiple lifetimes to experience all the different like angles of that theme. So like the theme of power, for instance, you are going to want to experience being in power, but also not being in power, about being able to get your power back, like all the different ways to experience power. And so then your soul will choose some kind of benchmark experiences to learn that lesson through. So perseverance, and I've seen that one show up with a number of my clients. And perseverance, it usually means that your soul, you haven't really stuck through with some things in some past lives. And so now you want to stick with it. And so what that means is also, if you've chosen perseverance, things don't come that easily for you necessarily, because you need to learn to persevere. So when you know that's your life lesson, you can say, okay, just because I'm hitting these roadblocks doesn't mean that this is not the right path. I'm just learning to persevere. By the same token, you don't want to persevere just being blind and kind of pigheaded about it. You need to learn when to let go. It's like learning the balance. So it's a really tricky one.
That really would be, because one of the components of that, I would think, is if in a past life, and by the way, for those of you that are saying reincarnation, I don't want to come back and be a cow. That's not how it works.
No.
It is all about your personal growth, and also the growth of the collective of everyone, because you're a piece of that. And the experiences that you have here help the collective and help everyone grow, because it becomes part of the overall experience. Am I right in that?
Absolutely, yes.
And so one of the things that if you are here to learn perseverance, it may be because in a previous life you chose to take your way out without experiencing everything that you were there to do. I'm talking about taking your own life. And so now you're coming back to learn that that's not an appropriate way to be, and that you need to you need to have perseverance to get through all of this, because it's kind of hard here, isn't it?
Well, no, so it doesn't necessarily mean that you took your own life. It just means that you didn't see some of your goals all the way through.
That's also true. Yeah. But is it in your work, in your experience, have you, when you're talking to people that have passed as a psychic medium and stuff, do they tell you how hard it is here and that you should be congratulated for everything that you're doing?
There is a lot of common messages around not judging ourselves, not being so hard on ourselves, for having more fun. And one of the most common messages is that the things that we get really like stressed or worried about or upset about are not as important as we feel like they are in the moment. That they're really like, wanting us to just enjoy the moment, and really to think about it. If you're not going to be upset about that thing in like 5 years or 10 years at the end of your life, like, don't be upset about it now. So that they definitely bring in a lot of lighthearted energy and wanting us to just kind of enjoy the process and not worry so much.
Well, have you heard, and I probably say this too much, but have you heard the gospel according to Paul McCartney?
No. What do you mean?
Let it be.
Let it be. Yes. Yeah.
Just Don't. Everything is going to be fine.
Yes.
Let it be, and enjoy the time that you have here, and enjoy the people that you're with, and the
Yeah.
things you get to do, and the animals you get to work with, because there are animals on the other side. That I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So my favorite dog is still waiting for me. But let's when we take, I got to take this last break. It's just 30 seconds, so everybody just calm down. But we're just I want to ask you about time on the other side, and then I'm going to ask you what my dad thinks about what I'm doing. So because he's been gone 15 years now. So we'll be right back after this.
When the game is on the line, championship teams know the game plan. They communicate and work together to win. We all need a game plan to protect ourselves online. Talk to family and friends so they know how to stay safe too. Create strong passwords, turn on multi-factor authentication, update software, and recognize and report phishing, because online safety is not something you want to fumble. Get more game-winning tips at CISA.gov/secure our world. Then share them with family and friends.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Alexa Darrin is our guest. Go to her website, please. AlexaDarrin.com. Find out all about her. And you can work with her, and she can help you help yourself, because she's not going to tell you to do anything, but she's going to help you understand who you really are, so that then you can take the actions that you would like to make. You don't have to. You got free will. You can do anything you want. But if you'd like to do that, then you might end up living a better life. Who knew? Who knew that you could live the life that you truly want to live? But you got to know how to do it. She can help you do that. I wanted to ask you about time, because I've been told there is no time on the other side, and everything is kind of like now. And we don't treat it like that here, but we probably should.
Yeah, that's something that I honestly don't know a lot about. And I've heard that there is no time, and that time is a human construct. But that's not something that comes up a lot in my work. And every time I hear people talk about it, I feel like, short circuits in my brain.
Well, it's hard to figure out. I mean, we know about time because we've got this little, at least we still do, this sun thing that goes around every 24 hours. And so we've kind of built everything on the 24-hour clock. But what if we lived on like Saturn, and the sun went around us once every 72 days? Would that now be a day? A 72 day time clock? I don't know the answer to that, but we'll find out when we get there. That'll be fun.
Yeah, and it's one of those questions that I think for me doesn't have a practical application.
Correct.
I like to be really practical with my spiritual work and the work that I do with my clients. And so I like to find out things in the Akashic Records for my clients that they can use to understand themselves better, to make choices that are more in alignment with their soul, to understand the things that are holding them back, to understand how to navigate manifestation with more ease. So that's where I like to focus, is how can we take this and how can we use it in a way that feels really grounded, and it feels like a way that's going to help you to experience life in a more positive way. And so some of the more, I think, esoteric topics, I tend not to delve into those as much, because I feel like, there's only so much time in a day, right? As a human, there's only so much time. And yeah, I think that's just where my focus is how can I apply this to my life?
Well, and at the end, and to your point, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Time is time. And if there isn't it on the other side, it doesn't affect us at all. I love people who are working in the present and helping people understand where they are and who they are, so that they can make, if they choose to, make the changes that they would like to make their life better. And by the way, for their friends and family's life better too. Speaking of which, I gotta ask you, you were a professional woman, you were doing creative stuff, and you were doing directing, and you were doing commercials and all that kind of stuff. What was the response that you got from family and friends when you said, I'm going to become a spiritual life coach?
I mean, everyone, my parents have been supportive of everything I do, and I have gone through several career changes, and so I don't think it didn't I didn't get any negative feedback. I got some positive feedback. I got like an aunt and uncle who sort of were really happy. I was surprised how excited they were about me diving into spirituality. So that was really cool to see them, and that they were really curious. And so yeah, I mean, I don't know what people thought behind the scenes, but I didn't really care. So
And again, see, this was all when you look at it, and years and years and years from now, when your daughter's 30 and you're a grandma, you'll look back at some of these moments in time, and you'll say that, I can see the parallels and the positioning of my life. Because when you made this change, you didn't have anybody that said, like I did. I had people that said, "You want to be in radio? Have you lost your mind? You're a district sales manager. You just relax and make your money and get ready to, and then go and retire." And I said, "I can't do that." And so they're all gone now. Every last one of them's gone, but they've been replaced by better people that resonate with who I am. So that's an important aspect. But you had surrounded yourself with people that were going to be supportive right from the get-go. That's exciting. That's great.
yeah, I had other challenges, and this all started right when I lost my little sister. And so my dad, he sort of had his spiritual awakening, so to speak, like in right after that happened, one of his friends sent him a book that was written by a medium, and so he was reading it, and he sent me this email. He's like, "Hey, I'd love for you to check this out. I think it might help." And I was like, "Well, Dad, speaking of that." And
I've been
so,
you've been
yeah.
having conversation with your little sister for a while now.
And well, this was just it was all happening at the same time, but because he was sort of opening up to that at the same time I was diving into it, it was just sort of a different circumstance, and my mom has always been into, seeing mediums and psychics and all of that. And so, my parents and my husband was super supportive. And so that was my main experience. It was just, I had my own challenges, right? I was going through a lot of grief. So
Sure.
I think we all choose challenges. It's not like I had it easier and everyone was like throwing rose petals on the path in front of me as I went into this work. It's just, I had different challenges.
Everybody, in my opinion, has a period of time that I call your bad country music song period. And I had one of those. My dad died, my dog died, my wife left, and I lost my house, yada, yada, and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's the resilience that you show. See, there we are. And the resilience that you show to continue to do what you know to be right and what's in your heart and what your guides are helping you with and what is dictated by it all. So I applaud your work, and more people need to come and see you so that they can also go down this road of self-discovery. And that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
It is. And my guides wanted me to bring up something about time. We jumped ahead. And so I would love to return to your question about time.
Yes.
Something that is, I think, when people talk about there is no time or time isn't important or it's a human construct, I think a part of that is a misinterpretation of the idea that everything exists in the present moment. And so as humans, we spend a lot of time in the past and in the future.
Yep.
And so this is what they wanted me to bring up, that we spend a lot of time thinking about the past, regretting the past, dissecting it, reminiscing about the past, or projecting ourselves into the future of being worried about what's going to happen or looking forward to that without enjoying the present moment. And so we can really be the most in our power when we are in the present moment, because that is really the only time that exists, is the present moment. Because trying to explain this is if I'm getting this clearly, but that, I think that's where we have our power. That's where manifestation is the most powerful, is when we have all of our energy in the present moment and are enjoying it, are experiencing it, and are feeling the gratitude and the joy for it.
And years ago, I was doing one of my shows, and there was a 4-time cancer survivor. and we were chatting, and I said, "What's your secret?" Because people are worried about the future. They're worried about whether or not you're going to survive and all this kind of. And she said, "Well, my life is very simple. If you have one foot in the past and one foot in the future, you're peeing on the present. Don't pee on the present, because that's all you've got. You don't know what the future holds. The past is the past. You can't change it. Learn from it, but let it go and live in the present." Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
And I got to ask you, we're going to run out of time, Alexa. So Alexa Darrin has been our guest, and alexadarrin.com. Go there, and she's kind of like the one-stop shop of your spiritual discovery about who you really are. And then you'll be amazed. People will look at you and go, "There's something about you that's different. What is it?" It's because you're becoming more aware.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with becoming more aware so that you understand. But before we go, I want to ask you, has my dad bothered to show up at all? He does from time to time.
No, but I know that he's very proud of you.
Well, he didn't want to talk. Okay, I get it.
I'm not open for mediumship right now. Yeah.
No, I understand. And the interesting thing is, Alexa, is I've done 2,500 interviews. One of my co-hosts was a psychic medium. I literally have seen hundreds of readings and verified them. And so consequently, if you're one of those skeptics out there that says, "Oh, that's not true, there's no such thing," you need to live where I've lived. I've got some incredible stories of people that have said things, and things have come true that they had no earthly way of knowing that any of that was possible.
Yeah.
And finding things and people's it's just amazing. Including, I've interviewed John Edward, who read my sister and didn't know it was my sister at the time, so I knew everything that he was saying. It was spot on. It was just, and he was in New York and I was in Seattle. It was just amazing. And you are too. And I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always so fun.
And by the way, I want you to, we've got about 2.5 minutes. I want you to tell our audience anything, or your guides, or any of that, anything that you think is relevant to them and that they should know or would like to know.
Well, I think that one of the biggest misconceptions around purpose and feeling, and when people who are wondering what their purpose is the pressure that's around it. Once you start to awaken and wondering what it is, you're like, I got to figure this out. There's this thing that I'm supposed to do. And I think that if you can get into a place of the energy of curiosity and openness, instead of the frustration or the impatience, we talked about time, right? Of like, okay, I got to figure this out. Then things are going to go a lot better when it comes to purpose. And I think that if you feel that your soul is calling you towards something and it feels like, why do I want to go do that thing? That doesn't make any sense. I've got no right to start a radio show or move to Paris or whatever it is, right? Like but you're feeling this pull that you can't explain, or wanting to step into a new career. I want you to know that that's your soul calling you towards that, because you don't have desires that just come out of nowhere. That is your soul calling you there. So if you have any inkling of that desire, that means that the possibility to manifest that, to step into that life, is available to you, that you just need to learn how to shift your energy to step into that. And so just honor the excitement, honor those little pulls, and try to step into it with just an open-minded curiosity and playfulness.
Alexa, I need to write a book, because when I made that decision that I wanted to find out why I was really here, that for me was a catalyst, things just started lining up. The job left. The radio station changed their format. And then continuing fast forward for the next 25 years. And I think that's all by design. Because I'd said yes to the universe. You said yes to the source. I said yes. And my guides are over there saying, yeah, now we can help. And it's a marvelous ride that we're on to be here in life.
Yeah, that's happened to so many of my clients that they start to shift their energy, they clear things out, and they start to make steps in a different direction, and all these like synchronicities show up, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, how did this happen?"
And next time we talk, I have a synchronicity that took 20 years to develop. But it was really cool, but it hit me right at the right time. Again, we've been talking with Alexa Darrin. Go to alexadarrin.com. I've enjoyed this thoroughly and want to thank everybody for being here. And Alexa, you're going to have to come back. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is.
Third time's the charm.
Exactly. And fourth and fifth and sixth. So we'll thank you everybody for paying attention, and we'll see you next time on Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.